John Haidt is a social psychologist at the NYU Stern School of Business. He received his PhD from the University of Pennsylvania in 1992 and spent most of his career at the University of Virginia. He has written such books as The Happiness Hypothesis and the New York Times bestseller, The Righteous Mind. Roger Martin, some of you may be familiar, is the Institute Director here at the Martin Prosperity Institute. From 1998 to 2013, he served as Dean of this school, and previously he spent 13 years as Director of the Monitor Company, a global strategy consulting firm based in Cambridge. And as I wrote in my notes, and he also helped to build a city block, helps companies around the world, and had a profound impact on public policy. But aside from that, he hasn't been up to much over the last little while. So with that, and without further ado, I invite John Haidt to join the stage. Thank you very much.
Capitalism has a real image problem. The word itself generally has negative associations, although I'll show you it depends for whom. But yet, the world is, people are risking their lives doing anything they can to get to the capitalist countries, the countries that have had certain forms of capitalism for the longest time. So it's a real conundrum here. I think that getting capitalism right, understanding it, and figuring out ways to make it work better for all is the greatest challenge of the 21st century. And that's why I'm so pleased to be here. I was so thrilled to meet Roger a year and a half ago and to find out about MPI, because this is, I think, the most important intellectual task. One of the most important things that academics can do, certainly in the social sciences, is help people think more clearly about capitalism. So I'm thrilled to be an MPI fellow. My first book was called The Happiness Hypothesis. It was a book about the major psychological insights that the ancients had. I put them all together in a book, and I evaluated them as a social psychologist. Are they true? And one of them is that people are self-righteous hypocrites. Why do you complain about the speck in your neighbor's eye when you cannot see the plank in your own? Boy, is that an insightful and true statement. We're self-righteous hypocrites. We're argumentative. We need to be less judgmental. So that was one of the themes of my first book. But that led directly into my second book, which is really more on my own research, which is on moral judgment, political tribalism and controversy, how we're all just hypocrites who are overly judgmental of the other side and therefore can't understand the other side and therefore can't think clearly about politics. So that was my second. One of what I think is really one of the best things I've heard said about capitalism. David Schmitz he's actually a libertarian philosopher at the University of Arizona. He gave a talk at Stern while I was going through all this, like, wow, this is amazing stuff. He gave a talk in which he had this offhand line. He doesn't even remember saying it, but I checked with him, and he's okay with me quoting him as saying this. He said, at its best, a free market society is a game that you can only win by making other people better off. And that's just so simple. And it's also obviously not the society that we currently live in. There are ways to get rich that don't make other people better off. I gave a version of this talk, or some parts of it, at a conference in Korea. Jack Ma spoke there, and he was the founder of Alibaba, one of the richest men in China. And he said the secret of success is help others. If you go to work every day, if you think always, how can I help others, you will be successful. Now, that isn't true in many countries. I mean, there are many countries in which that is not true. I wouldn't try that in Russia. But that's the name of the game, is can we get things to the point where this is true? Some of the issues that I'm studying, that I'm talking about with the folks at MPI, they talk a lot about different kinds of infrastructure. And an idea that I'm trying to develop with them is that there's what you might call moral infrastructure. There are certain kinds of norms and values about hard work, about trust, personal responsibility, honesty. There are certain kind of norms that are going to, and policies and institutions that will make your society more one in which the only way you can win the game is to make other people better off.